Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. Kyle McCarter is a state senator from the 54th Illinois Senate District. Prior to redistricting, he was appointed to a Senate seat in the old 51st District, replacing Frank Watson, and won election in 2010. After redistricting, the senator won election into the 54th District seat in 2012 and then in 2014. He is the minority spokesman on the Environment and Conservation Committee and is a member of the Agriculture, Higher Education, Labor, and State Government and Veteran Affairs Committee. Prior to election to the Illinois Senate, Mr. McCarter served for 8 years on the St. Clair County Board. Kyle McCarter is still a small businessman in Southern Illinois. He employs 15 people at 2 manufacturing facilities. As a legislator, Senator McCarter advocates for a fiscally responsible state budget. He supports pro-family issues and supports an innovative environment for entrepreneurs and small business owners. He also believes that education, job creation, service to others and families are the bedrock for a strong community. State Senator Kyle McCarter, welcome to Conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you back. Things have changed since the last time that you were. It's a long time since you were here last.
It has been.
I was shocked. I didn't realize that it had been this long of an interval. We won't let that happen again. But the last time you were here, you seemed really, really hopeful that the state was going to heal itself. And I'm talking about its fiscal responsibilities. And here we are. It's, what's today? August the 11th, 2015. And the state of Illinois and Chicago City both are sitting on teetering on the edge, according to what I've heard, and that the bonds of the state and the city may soon have junk status.
I'm just as hopeful. I'm just as hopeful as I was then. I think.
As to what are you hoping?
Well, I'm hopeful that that the citizens will stand behind this governor, this new governor that we have, that's put forth a plan to restructure the way we do things in Illinois. If we will get behind him and support him over the politicians in charge that have really driven us into this ditch over the last 12 years and say enough is enough, we can turn this around. The same things that I proposed are the same things that the governor has proposed. For that reason, I've been on board with him from day one. There's some.
Why don't you be specific? And thank you.
Sorry.
Got me started too. Tell me, what is it that is going on that you think needs to be changed today?
Well, I think we need term limits. And a lot of people said, well, we have term limits every time we go to the polls. But, you know, the situation is so bad in Illinois state government that I think you have to have term limits. Mm-hmm. Could you get rid of some good people like Senator Frank Watson, who'd been there for a long time? It's possible, and that would not be the most ideal thing. But I think once you say to people, listen, you can come and serve for a limited amount of time, we will attract better candidates. We will attract better people that will come out of business, come out of their professions with their experience, serve, and then get out. Mm-hmm. I think term limits is necessary. This is never supposed to. It was never supposed to be a career. Being a politician wasn't supposed to be what you do for life. Mm-hmm. It was what you're supposed to do as a period of time to serve, and then get back to what you do, in real life.
The Senate Majority Leader, he's been in the Illinois Senate for a couple decades now. Is that right?
A couple of decades, and in the House, you've got the Speaker who's been there as long as we've, as long as it's been since we ratified the Constitution in the state of Illinois.
The current Constitution.
Right.
Which was 1970.
Forget the exact. It was 73, 74. Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
So term limits
77. according to
Okay, it's good.
word over there,
In
77.
70s, we would have been
Yes.
safe saying that. But term limits, redistricting reform, having a fair map, not allowing politicians to draw the map, allow citizens to contribute and draw the map. So we don't
When you
have
say
the
map, you're-
gerrymandering.
you're talking about the various
The legislative
House and
districts.
Senate districts.
That's right. And because that map is it's when it's made by politicians, it's made for one group to stay in charge, no matter what the people think. The way you slice that and dice that can limit the voice of the people, and so we need that. We also need tort reform. We're
Explain
sitting.
what
we're
tort
sitting.
reform
We're
is.
sitting in Madison County where tort reform is, tort law has made people millions and millions of dollars by filing lawsuits that were not necessarily justified, and filing lawsuits from other people throughout the United States just because the courts here are much more generous. Every railroad lawsuit is typically filed in this county. And so we've got to reform tort law to where if you have a justified claim, you can make that and you can get paid. But you can't do that in a frivolous way. And so what that does is makes a lot of money for attorneys and takes a lot of money out of the economy that could go to better the citizens. Workers' comp reform, which is something I know very well. I've actually put legislation on the table and not yet succeeded, but I believe we're going to, which really just says that if an employer is at fault, they should pay. But if they're not at fault, they shouldn't. If the injury comes from an accident playing softball till the wee hours of the morning after drinking way too much, that injury of your rotator cuff has nothing to do with you getting back to work Monday morning and shifting the forklift and saying, boy, that really hurts. We have to decide what is the cause of the accident. If it's the employer, they should pay. If it's not, they shouldn't. Right now, if one fraction of that injury could be caused by the workplace, the employers pay 100%. And it has raised that cost to where people have left the state because the workers' comp is so high.
Well, you're a business owner.
I know
so
it.
So
I've paid the claims. I've experienced this. I've experienced the pain of this firsthand. It's not fair. And what it does is it takes away, in my case, tens of thousands of dollars because I'm a small business, but in others, millions of dollars. In the case of cities and counties, it takes away millions of dollars that they could have, and like I myself, could have put back into human capital, put back into workers, put back into machinery, put back into growing my business to where that 15 becomes 25. But without that money to invest, and I'm having to pay the higher work comp premiums, I can't do it. Mm-hmm. So some of the reforms that we're needing, one is what the governor's put is a property tax freeze, and we're the second highest property taxes in the United States.
No, wait, let me get this right. The governor has frozen property taxes at the county level because counties are the
No,
ones
he has proposed. His legislation has proposed, in which I have co-sponsored, a property tax freeze across the state.
So that the counties.
So that,
but you're talking about a law. It's not like the governor has
right.
issued
So schools would not
an
be
edict.
able to just say we're going to raise it. Counties would not be able to. Cities would not be able to. Water districts, everything that's on that tax bill, which could be anywhere from 7 to 15 different taxing bodies, they can't just keep raising the price. That would be frozen. But at the same time, you've got to give those taxing entities the ability to reduce their cost. So you would give them the ability to live without the burden of prevailing wage or project labor agreements, which for a school, in essence, for schools, if we did away with prevailing wage and project labor agreements, instead of getting 3 schools, we would get 4 new schools. And in the case of roads, instead of getting only 7 miles of road, we get 10 miles of road. Mm-hmm. So you see the value to the people, and the lowering of the cost to the people allows those entities to freeze property taxes and keep them from escalating. which simply just it runs people out of the state.
Now, the guys who actually work in these businesses, I'm talking about the guys at the working level, when they hear you talk like that, what are they hearing? They're hearing like, oh, they're trying to steal my money. They're trying to take my wages and lower them down closer to the minimum wage, and I don't like that. I like, living a decent middle-class life. How do you answer people like that?
That's not true. The prevailing wage is a arbitrary wage that really just pushes those jobs into a union setting. It's a carve out for unions is what it is, because there are plenty of people that are non-union that would like to bid on these things, and that could bid competitively. And what they would do is bring that price down.
Well, they take less because they want a job.
But they do that every day. They make a living every day at that wage. They are satisfied with that wage. They don't have the burdens that come in that union environment. They have the freedom for one man to do two jobs instead of having two men that sit around and wait till their job is necessary. I mean, there's a lot more synergies in an environment when people are free to do what they can do without rules and regulations.
I agree. I mean, I know that there are certain union environments in which, one guy has to lift something and the other guy has to do something else, and God forbid that they should actually reverse and the one guy does the lifting. I mean, that's just out of the question. Or if that guy's not there, somebody come over and do the lifting. That's a mistake on their part. But there are many who say that America right now is driving wages down, meaning that we now have less buying power. I understand what you're saying, because the cost for the state to do its job, the cost for the counties and the governmental units, it's costing them a fortune to be able to do their jobs. But on the other hand, as a country, do we want people running around, living at a place where they can't prepare to retire?
See, I don't believe I believe that's a threat from those that want to keep their carved out business.
Okay.
I believe that, unions always said we're competitive. And if they are competitive, they should not have any problem with this. Because if we allow people that are not union to bid, if the unions are really competitive, they're going to compete. They're still going to provide a contract bid that's competitive. They say they are. Allow others to bid, and we'll see if they are. I think they could be. I think they could be more competitive. But when they're carved out at a certain arbitrary wage, they don't have to be. And so what happens in essence, however, is local communities, those bidders, those workers in local communities are left out of the process. For instance, there was a floor that was being refinished in a gym in a high school here in the area, and the bid comes back at around $35,000 to refinish it. It's a local guy who is known for what he does. He's lived there forever. Everyone trusts him. They know where to find him every day of the week, and the bid looks good. They know it'll be done right. But instead, the school has to take it away from him, put it out for bid at prevailing wage. It goes to $50,000, and it goes to someone outside the community. That's not right.
No.
If you eliminate prevailing wage, what you would have is local people coming in, even union companies saying, listen here, I will rebuild your gymnasium. I'll do it, and I'll do it for about 10% profit, just so I can say that I did it. And they would do it for that school district if they didn't have those restrictions. Because everyone that comes in there says, Smith's Construction did it. They took care of us. Every ball game, somebody's going to come here and say, the Smiths did it for us. That's a great value. And it enables them to actually contribute something. By the rules today, they can't even do that. And so we can lower the cost of local governments if we give them the freedom to do that. If we free them up from the rules and the regs and prevailing wage and project labor agreements. If they choose to do it, fine. If it's competitive still, let them do it.
I want to pause right there and switch gears to we're in the micro, now we're going to go to the macro. Back on July 24th, CNBC, the business channel, Rick Santelli, I don't know if you know that name or not, was speaking to a fellow by the name of Mike Shedlock, who is with, I forget, Pacific Securities or something like that. Anyways, they were talking about Illinois specifically and
Right.
and Chicago. And one of the comments, well, first they're saying like, they have no budget. And Illinois still
Right.
has no budget, does it?
Well, we have part of one. we have actually we have passed the budget for education. We actually passed what the Democrats put forth, and we added something to it to bring it up to what the governor had proposed. Mm-hmm. And so that's not, opening of the schools is not going to be affected. I mean, I think it was wisdom on the governor's part. He said, let's not have this battle over kids, mm-hmm. right? I think that's fair. Even if we're going to look dysfunctional, even be dysfunctional, let's just not affect kids. So we took care of that.
Well, you got the schools open, but part of what they were talking about was these legacy costs. And they were saying that the time has come for governments in general, not just Illinois, but governments in general, to look for ways to shed legacy costs so they can start working on stuff for the future, as opposed to constantly paying things for the past. Now, of course,
Right.
that doesn't sit well with pensioners because they're part of the deal that's going to be shed or at least cut down. It said that you have to shed pension costs, and then what were they talking about? That 80 to 90% of property tax is going into pensions in the Chicago area.
Right. Chicago's got a problem of their own, and that Chicago issue is gonna factor in to whether we successfully fix this budget, because there's a lot of leverage from Chicago that, truthfully, they need the governor's help. They need the governor's help to address pensions, because just because we can make it through one more year doesn't mean we're going to make it through the next decade, because they're going to catch up with us. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're going to have to, this is the structural change that the governor's asked for. We're going to have to deal with pensions. And you know what? There could be a lot of people that are upset about making changes to pensions, but I will submit that a modified pension is a lot better than a bankrupt one. And in bankruptcy, a lot of people get hurt. I know it's the quick fix for some people to make things all right, but the truth is somebody always has to pay that bill. Somebody always goes without.
Well, these guys are saying that Illinois is closed, their bonds and all of these things that are backing up the state of Illinois, the Chicago pension funds are approaching junk bond status, which means that there isn't much faith there that that these bonds are any good.
Well, and they're right, because we haven't done what it takes to encourage businesses to come to this state, new businesses, instead of continuing to run them out where there's been this mass exodus of people and their money. Mm-hmm. We've got to structurally change the system that says, listen, we want you. You can keep your costs low in workers' comp and in property taxes, and you can still make a profit. And then we're not going to resort to just raising taxes every year. We will give you the assurance that we are going to structurally change it to where we don't have to raise taxes, and you can make a profit in this state. That's
Have you spoken to businessmen who have said that to you, and that that's why I'm leaving? Is that what they've told you?
Well, they'll specifically, when a company can leave and go across the river, just about 15 miles from here, and their workers
into Missouri,
and their workers' comp saves them $1 million, is that not a reason for moving? Is that not a reason for taking that money and investing more in people, investing more in equipment, and creating wealth for their family and their stockholders? I mean, they have a fiduciary responsibility. They can't just stay in Illinois because they like the seasons. They have to stay in Illinois because we've made it possible for them to create wealth for the people that are counting on them. And so if we don't structurally change this, and that's what the governor's holding out for right now. The governor's saying, listen, I'm not moving forward on these things. And there are going to be people that call in and say, oh, we need our money, we need our money, oh, we're hurting, we're hurting. They're going to say that, but the governor's saying, listen, in the last 12 years, you that have been in charge, the Democrats have been in charge, have failed to restructure this in the right way. Either we're going to restructure it now, or I'm not moving forward. And I think it's a fair proposition. And at some point, we've just got to say, listen, enough is enough. The budget that was submitted by the Democrats was $36 billion instead of $32. It's $4 billion out of whack.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that.
It's $4 billion more than we have.
So you're only expecting to take in $32 billion. Is that
Correct.
That's what you're saying? But some folks said that we're going to spend 36.
They want to spend 36.
Right, and I mean,
if my wife wants to spend $36,000 and I'm only making $32,000, what sense does that make? I mean, let's take this down to a family level.
Well, right.
If you're making 32 and you're 36,
MasterCard.
what happens is somebody comes and takes your car overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it. But in government, we continue to just pass this burden on to the next generation and say, oh, it'll get better. Oh, it'll get better.
Well, Greece is a perfect example of where that end game winds up, where suddenly people are no longer willing to extend you even the credit to be able to pay the interest on your debt. And then all of a sudden, the whole house of cards folds at once, and the entire country of Greece is now hurting.
It's possible that Illinois is a type of Greece.
Okay, so now that we've talked about all that, is there a potential here at Springfield for the two sides that are legally, constitutionally in a position to make the decisions at this point, this year, next year? Is there a possibility that they might actually come to some point at which Illinois will not collapse, the bills will get paid, and will start to heal the fiscal house?
I believe so. I believe so. And I've always said this, if I cannot be hopeful, I don't need to be in this position. Mm-hmm. If I've given up, I need to go do something else. I am hopeful, and I believe that what's on the table is fair. I think what the governor has done is had a list of 40 items to restructure this state. He's come down to 5. He's come way to the middle, to the point that I've said, personally, I've said, now, Governor, are you sure this is all you want to demand from them? I mean, I think you should get more on workers' comp. Even workers' comp has been negotiated down to where it's the basics of what is needed for reform. But instead, the Democrats, what they've done is held these hearings all summer long that are nothing but a sham. They've passed a workers' comp bill that not only didn't save $800 million like my bill was proposed, not only doesn't save $320 like was proposed by the Democrats in the bill they passed 3 years ago, which only saved about $240. It saves $0. It actually increases the cost. It goes in the wrong direction. Now, the Democrats expect the citizens to say, hey, we passed workers' comp, everything's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay, because it's still going to push people out of this state. So they have put forth these things, a property tax freeze that gives no relief to local units of government, none whatsoever. That's not real. And so I believe that we can, but the citizens are going to have to put the pressure on legislators to say, enough is enough. You have 32, live within your means, even if you have to make some tough decisions. Now, part of those decisions is to reform things like pensions.
Oh, pause there. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Okay.
There, on the other side, there are people who say, well, that's because we're not collecting 36. Why aren't we collecting 36 instead of 32? Tell me and tell the audience why it's a bad idea to collect $36
because it was a bad
billion instead of just collecting 32.
It was a bad idea the first time, and it'll be a bad idea the second time.
What do you mean?
When we raise taxes by 67% on the citizens of this state, when we raise those taxes, we collected $30 billion in extra money. And it didn't take us out of the problem.
Why not?
Because the legislators in charge continued to spend more than they had.
So they found new things,
They found new programs to spend the money on.
See.
Instead of child care for $1,000, it went to $2,000, it went to $3,000. And you got to remember, politicians love giving out benefits because then they're loved and then they're reelected. But you know, a real politician that cares really should say, listen here, this is all we've got, this is what we're going to live on. And you know, as a father, as somebody responsible for kids, I always made that decision growing up. I said, you know, we're not going to spend more than we have because you know what, son, daughter, you got a future. And I'm going to make sure you get an education. I'm going to make sure you succeed. And because I believe there's a future for you, I'm not going to act irresponsibly. Politicians need to be told the same thing. They need to live within their means. We can do that. There's hope for this state. But we're going to have to say no at some times. But you say no because you care. And you have to just say, listen, this is all we can do. I'm going to do the best I can for you. And your pension can only be this much because this is all we've got. I'm going to make a promise to you that I can keep. If we continue to make promises that we can keep, we can turn the state around.
Mm-hmm. Some of the things that you were talking about back about 10, 15 minutes ago from a businessman's point of view, your point of view and the governor's a businessman, I think that there are many in the legislature and many in the public who simply don't understand how business operates. They really don't. I mean, I have found that there are some people who actually think that, you know, money simply exists and all you have to do is have somebody write a check, and then you know, then it's paid. Do you find
they do? And
do you hear from people like that?
I do, and I was in a bankrupt. I was one of the creditors in a bankruptcy one time, and a guy from the company said, "Kyle, think of all the tax write-offs you're going to get." I looked at him. I was threatened to punch him because I thought, you know what? I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, green cash from you. This is not just this is money that's coming out of my family. This is money that came out of my kids', you know, savings for college. You actually took that money from me. And I think we, you know, politicians, remember, this is not just numbers we're throwing around. These are decisions that really affect working families. It affects their kids. It affects the opportunity for their kids. The more we raise taxes on them and raise property taxes, that's less they can invest in their kids. And I think you've got to remember that. Every decision you make in Springfield has got to be, what is the effect going to be on the families that I am obligated to protect?
I'm just going to say one thing and get a quick response from you because we got about 30 seconds here. I noticed that the chancellor of Southern Illinois University has, she's given up on waiting for the state to fulfill its promises. I think that she's decided to leave and go somewhere else where she can actually do good.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm sure she was aware of the challenge when she stepped in there, and to think that that was going to be flipped around and solved within a year or two was probably not realistic. But
yeah.
we can survive this.
Well, I hope so. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And to the audience, I've been speaking with Senator Kyle McCarter. He's the state senator from the 54th District of Illinois. I think that we've had a pretty interesting discussion about the problems of the state of Illinois. This is going to be uploaded to YouTube. If you want to show it to other people, just go to Conversation with Lee Presser, Kyle McCarter at YouTube, and show it to other people. Thanks. Bye.